Hey everyone, how are you? How is your New Year's? So far for me, 2026 stinks. But that being said, guys, I want to do something a little bit differently now. I want to do some serious, wild predictions about what the UFC is going to look like in one calendar year. What's the UFC looking like 12/31/2026? But before we get into all these things, and I'm going to do three parts: who's going to be champions, the big stories of what I think is going to be going on in 2026, and what fighters to look out for in the upcoming year. And I think that's where I'm going to start. Now, I'm not going to do each division. I'm going to do one female fighter to look out for, one male fighter to look out for. And that's where we're going to start. I really like the 24-year-old featherweight Austin Bashi. He was on a 12-fight winning streak before he got invited onto Dana White's Contender Series, where he picked up another win. Had his UFC debut against the Prospect Killer. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, I think that would be a great nickname for him. Christian the Prospect Killer Rodriguez. So C-Rod took a unanimous decision from him, put him in a lot of bad spots, and it wasn't really anything specifically that C-Rod was doing. It was that Bashi is too reckless, too overly aggressive, that he put himself in so many bad spots. Solid Muay Thai base. He is a monster, reckless, just digs for takedowns. And like I said, he gets put in bad situations, at least in this fight. Now, you could say his debut, maybe a little bit of like opening day jitters. I could see that. But here's the deal. On the regional circuit, before coming to Dana White's Contender Series, 5 straight main events. So he does have some sense of what it's like to, be the last man to walk to the cage, right? But he followed up that loss with a victory. He is 14-1 now. He has to stop telegraphing a lot of his stuff, which, that is kind of the reason why he's put in so many bad spots. I would love to see, Henry Cejudo work with him, because he has a really good wrestling base. He's good on the ground, and I think Cejudo could teach him a lot. Does he go to Cejudo for some advice? I don't know. I mean, obviously, we've seen Henry reach out to a lot of the younger fighters. Maybe. And the fact that he's from Michigan, another American. So maybe Henry works with him. I don't know. But I would like to see it. One thing he does really, really good that I like is he has a really nice head kick that he throws. Hides it well. He's quick. But I think that's the guy fighter you guys are going to have to look out for. Austin Bashi. As far as the women are concerned, I like Jacqueline Amorim, the 30-year-old Brazilian, who I think is about to get a real push. Now, look, 30 years old, so she's not really in her prime yet, but I sense something good about her. Now, she's 10-2, and she's in a tough division for someone like her, female strawweight division, but her 10 wins, all finishes, 8 submissions, 2 knockouts, 8 first-round finishes, BJJ black belt, multi-champion, ATT product, so you know the ground game is going to be there. She's now just as good from the top as she was on her back. I would like to see King Mo work with her. Now, look, do I know what goes on at ATT in Coconut Creek? No. Not even going to pretend I do. But I would like to see her work with King Mo, Johnny Eblin, Kayla Harrison. I think would be great to maybe show her some more ground and pound. Now that Kayla's ground and pound is just nasty. But I think those are people who I'd like to see her work with down there. Now, high volume fighters is where she struggles against. And at strawweight, they're all over the division. You know, it's the same thing with Austin. What he struggles against, you know, is all over the division. You know, I could see Dan Ige putting out Austin really easy. That's why he needs to, you know, be a little bit less reckless and a little bit less telegraphing. But she too has those same issues. You know, not just working on, you know, at least continuing to work on their ground game and their takedowns. Both of them need some offense in the stand-up. They both need help there. But I think both of those are going to be the pushes where I think fighters to look for. Let's look at the 5 stories I think that are going to come out 2026. Okay. I think just due to economics, I think due to other problems as well, I think this is the calendar year where we see a known gym close down. Now, is it going to be like ATT or Jackson Wink? Probably not. Okay? But, and I don't want to jinx anybody, but a Fortis, a Factory X, maybe Trevor Whitman wraps it. I just see a gym close. Sarah Longo, maybe Nick Catone's. You know, I don't think Henzo's is going to go anywhere since Gracie has gyms all over the place. But I think, unfortunately, calendar year 2026, we lose a gym. I think this is the calendar year that we see Shavkat Rakhmonov get a title shot, finally, against Islam. Now, look, here's the deal. Islam's pretty much rolled everybody, right? He's been pushed at times, but he's rolled everyone. I think something in this fight, Shavkat and Islam, is what Dana White calls one of those oh shit moments. I think something in this fight is going to be so controversial, whether it's an early stoppage, bad judge scorecards, an injury. Something's going to happen in this fight where you go, oh crap. Can I see Shavkat flipping the title? I could. Like I said, something's going to happen in that fight where that, out of the whole entire year of 2026, that will be the moment where you say, oh, poop. So those are two stories that I think are going to happen in 2026. I think calendar-wise in 2026, we might see the most retirements ever in UFC history. I'm talking close to 25, 30 retirements. You know, and some of them are going to be shockers. You know, I think Doug Rose, Namajunas calls it. I hate to say it, but MVP and Patricio Pitbull, I can see calling it. In a shocker, I could see Brian Ortega calling it a career midway through 2026. I think Michael Chandler hangs him up, you know. I think Josh Emmett calls it a career. I think both Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman call it, you know. Maybe Usman fights Islam and then calls it a career. I could see that happening, definitely. I think Colby maybe one more fight and then calls it. You know, welterweight's going to lose a lot of it. Maybe Gilbert Burns, too. He's at the point where you got to question career. But I think there's going to be the most retirements ever in UFC history in a calendar year. Like I said, I'm looking at the number 20 to 25. And I'm not talking about guys getting cut. I straight up retirement. Another prediction that I think for a story out of the year 2026 might be, look, there was John Jones, there was Conor McGregor. There's always someone that skates the legal line. There's a fighter who I like, who I love his brutal honesty. I love how blunt he is. I think he's hilarious. I think he's a good fighter. Talking about Sean Strickland. And look, he's getting himself in trouble, and he's been a good boy recently, or at least trying to. I think this is the calendar year. I think Sean Strickland goes into a 6x6. Or 12x12. Whatever. However big the cell is. I think he gets clipped. I think he goes into one of those little cages. Now, probably, you know, bond out immediately, but I could see Sean Strickland getting arrested in 2026. And my fifth and final story for 2026 is a prediction I made, about around a year ago? Alex Poatan Pereira will drop the light heavyweight strap, and he will become the first ever UFC 3-division champion, middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight champion. I think this is the year he does it. So, my final predictions for 2026 are, when the clock strikes midnight, 2026 going into 2027, who is going to be the champions across all the divisions? Let's start with the female division first. I don't see Mackenzie Dern holding on to the strap all year. I think she's either going to lose it to Weili Zhang, returning to reclaim her strap, or if Weili stays at strawweight, I think Tatiana Suarez is right there. She's right on that cusp. And I think she beats Mackenzie Dern. I can see her doing it. As far as flyweight is concerned, I think Valentina will hold the strap, but it's going to be tough. I think Manon Fiorot and Natalia Silva are going to have a massive war. I think Silva wins that fight. And I think Bullet says, Natalia, you're close, but you're not there yet, youngster. But would I be shocked if Natalia Silva pulled the shock and beat Valentina? No. But I do expect Valentina to beat Natalia Silva and to remain champion going into 2027. At bantamweight, no matter what happens this year between Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, and Kayla Harrison, I think Kayla, when the clock strikes midnight going into 2027, I think Kayla holds the strap. Now, she might lose it and then regain it, but I think at the end of the year, 2026, Kayla is champion still. Now, I think, looking even further ahead, I think Kayla retires in 2027. Family means the world to her. She's raising those 2 kids herself. I mean, her mom helps a lot, but I think motherhood just means so much more to her. Plus, Kayla's done everything, you know. The only thing that she doesn't have is the Cyborg fight, and even Cyborg said that she's retiring in 2026, and we all know the UFC does not cross-promote, so that fight will not go onto her resume. Now, looking at the guys, I did expect Pantoja to beat Van, and you can't predict an injury, but I think Van just rides this wave that he's going to be on. I like him over Manel Cape. I like him over Tetsuro Taira. So I think Joshua Van is going to be riding a little bit of a high right now throughout the calendar year. And then going into 27, he's the flyweight champion. At bantamweight, I called it for the UFC White House card. I think in the trilogy, since it's 1-1, I think Merab takes the title back from Peter Yan. At 145, look, after his loss to Volkanovski, Diego Lopez, and I saw him in the city at the New York card, Diego Lopez got bigger. I think this time around, he beats Alexander Volkanovski, and I could see him have a couple of wars with Evlov in 26 also. At least 1, maybe 2. I think Diego Lopez leaves champion. At lightweight, look. Now, Patty the Batty is not going to want to stand there and bang with Justin Gaethje, okay? But I think Patty's going to get clipped, and Justin still hits like a rock. And I think he's going to go down. I think Justin's going to jump on top of him and ground and pound, and I think whoever's refereeing that fight's going to have to jump in to stop it. So I think Justin beats Patty for the interim strap. And at the end of the year, just like he did at 274, Charles Oliveira beating Justin Gaethje once again. The lightweight strap is going to be like a hot potato in 2026. But at the end of the year, I think Charles Oliveira is going to be the one holding that belt. Especially since Ilya... Look, God knows what Ilya is going to do, between the divorce. Does he want to go box? Because Dana's not going to want him boxing. Does he just walk away? You know. I went into the welterweight about Shavkat and Islam. Like I said, I can see Shavkat flipping the belt, but I'm going to go with Islam holding the strap at the stroke of midnight going into 2027. At middleweight, unfortunately, I see the strap being defended only once this year. That's the case with Khamzat Chimaev. Fights once a year, which is disgusting for a champion. Champion should fight minimum twice a year. But I see Khamzat easily beating Nasruddin Imavov. At light heavyweight, with no Alex Pereira anymore, as talented of a fighter as Carlos Ulberg is, and he really is, he's such a talented fighter, I think Magomed Ankalaev has more of an arsenal, definitely has more power, and I think he head kicks Carlos Ulberg's head off of his shoulders. Sort of like a Mirko Krokop, right? So I like Ankalaev to get the belt back and leave 2026 as champion. And at heavyweight, like I said, Alex to become a 3-division champion. Maybe that becomes a hot potato. You know, I could see, even if Gane wins the first fight, I could see Alex winning a rematch, or if Alex wins, then Gane winning a rematch, and maybe trilogy in a calendar year, which would be sick. No matter how you slice it, I think at the end of the year, 2026, Alex Pereira is champion. So there it is. 2 fighters to look out for. 5 headlines that I think are going to stand out in 2026. And all the division's champions. That is 2026 prediction wrap-up for the UFC. Guys, please like the video. Share it. Down below. You tell me, seriously, you tell me some predictions for 2026 that you have. Subscribe to the channel. Get your friends to subscribe. Costs you absolutely nothing, and it really helps me out. And we got a bunch of fight predictions coming because boxing in the UFC is coming back. We got 324 and 325 coming really, really soon. Bunch of boxing coming up. So until those videos, Cyclone saying, peace out, homies, and Happy New Year.